Stellaris Nomads introduced a new megastructure called the Stellar Cannon. It is essentially a gun that fires your entire energy stockpile at any system across the galaxy, destroying fleets, star bases, devastating planets, and even terraforming them into a hotter climate. But how does it interact with the things that actually matter? The mid-game Crises, the Fallen Empires, and the endgame Crisis, they all have unique mechanics, and some of them have very surprising responses to getting shot by a galaxy-spanning super weapon. I tested every interaction and dug into the game files to get the full picture, and in this video I'm gonna share with you all of my results so you know exactly what to do with your mega gun. Quick report from High Command before we dive deeper. Most of you watching aren't officially enlisted yet. If this run gives you ideas for your own games, subscribe and join our navy. For those unfamiliar, the Stellar Cannon fires your entire energy stockpile at a chosen system. At level 3, the maximum. For every 10 energy spent, you deal 1 damage to all ships and starbases in that system. If you spend more than 50,000 energy, you also cause 50% devastation across all planets. Now that got a lot of people thinking we could just one-shot endgame Crisis or instantly destroy Contingency machine worlds, since those get destroyed at 50% devastation. I had the same thought, so I tested every interaction and pulled the game files to find out what actually happens. Starting with the mid-game Crisis, the Great Khan, Void Worms, and the Great Tempest. None of them have any defenses against the Stellar Cannon. The Void Worms and the Great Tempest are the most vulnerable ones, because they lose if you destroy their key systems. You can fire directly on Void Worm nests and the Great Tempest main factory. The catch here is the energy cost. Depending on your game settings, you might need over a million energy to take them down outright. But even if you can't one-shot them, the Stellar Cannon is still a massive alpha strike too. You can fire it to destroy every defensive fleet in their main system, then send your fleets in to finish the job. Their fleets are much squishier than their starbases, so clearing their fleets before engaging makes the battle dramatically easier. The Great Khan, on the other hand, is a little bit trickier. He's always moving and the Stellar Cannon takes 140 days to fire, so timing the shot to actually hit him requires some creativity. One angle that I thought about is send cheap and tanky fleets to engage them. Army transports could work really well here. They take a long time to die and they are very cheap to rebuild. The point isn't to win the battle, it's to keep the Khan pinned in one system long enough for the Stellar Cannon to connect. He is squishy compared to the other mid-game Crisis starbases, so the energy cost shouldn't be that much of an issue if you can actually land the shot. Now Fallen Empires, they get absolutely annihilated by the Stellar Cannon. Their main strength is their fleets and they tend to stack all of them in a single system. One shot can wipe them entirely. Here's how to calculate the cost. You hover over their strongest ship, either the Paradox Titan or the Battle Cruiser, you add up the shield, armor and hull values and multiply by 10. That's the energy you need to destroy every single one of their ships. If you don't have that, however, you can just try to defeat all of their squads. It will already make a huge difference. Their planets sometimes have a planetary shield generator which reduces the devastation by 90%, but their fleets are the actual problem and the Stellar Cannon completely solves that if you have enough energy. You essentially get 3 Fallen Empire worlds, the planets, buildings, pops, all without losing a single ship. Now talking about the endgame Crisis, this is where the special interactions actually happen. The Scourge is the only one that does not have any special interaction and it functions exactly like the other Crisis. No special defenses, no deflections, no tricks and etc. And honestly that kind of makes sense in my opinion. They are a biological hive mind with no advanced technology, just a gigantic swarm. In terms of gameplay, the Scourge is essentially the Crisis least vulnerable to the Stellar Cannon. Their infested worlds require 100% devastation to be destroyed, but the Stellar Cannon caps out at 50% devastation, so you can't one-shot their planets anyway. Their fleets are also not in a single system like the Unbidden. They don't spawn from a single place, they come in 3 separate systems and they also come in 2 separate waves, so one-shotting all of their fleets is basically impossible. Their fleets are gonna take the full damage as well, and since we know exactly which systems they will arrive in, we can immediately destroy at least a third of their initial strike force, which is good, but it's not gonna destroy the entire Crisis like we saw with the Fallen Empire, the Void Worms and etc. Alternatively, if you have enough time, you can wait for the reinforcement waves, which are much larger, and you use the Stellar Cannon to thin out the heavier fleets before engaging, so the Scourge doesn't suffer too much from it overall. They have lots of fleets, their planets stay up, and the Stellar Cannon isn't a game changer against them. It's a tool, but not the solution. Now the Unbidden is where things start to get interesting. If you fire the Stellar Cannon at the system containing the dimensional portal, they feed from the blast energy, take 0 damage, and spawn an entirely new fleet from it. You literally make them stronger. However, if you fire at any other system where Unbidden fleets are present, they take the full damage and no new fleet is created. So the rule is simple. You never shoot the portal system, always shoot for the expansion fleets. And there is a strong strategic angle here. The Unbidden, they spawn from a single system, so you can kinda predict their expansion path, especially if they only have one system to go. Their fleets are also extremely slow in sublight speed, so if you time your shot to land just as they arrive in a new system, you might be able to fire and connect before they even jump to the next one, especially in larger systems with slower sublight speed, because yes, systems do have different sizes and larger ones take significantly more time to cross. A black hole system, as an example, is very small, so ships cross it very fast. A trinary system is usually one of the biggest ones, so the Unbidden will take a lot of time to cross that. You could also look for neutron stars or systems that have an FTL inhibitor. This will prevent the Unbidden from jumping to other systems, and then you can shoot them. Now the Contingency. This one is really funny, perhaps the funniest one in my opinion. So if you fire the Stellar Cannon at any of their core worlds, the Contingency deflects the damage to a completely random system across the galaxy. Which system? It could be yours, it could be a Fallen Empire capital, could be an ally, an enemy, or even some pre-FTL civilization that suddenly watches their ocean world get terraformed into a desert one. They did absolutely nothing and got obliterated by a stray blast from across the galaxy. The Contingency fleets, however, they function normally. If they are outside their core planet systems, you can shoot them down like anything else. So the play against the Contingency is you just use the Stellar Cannon for fleet cleanup, conventional warfare for machine worlds, you just send in your fleets and hope for the best. It is unfortunately not possible for you to kill their defensive fleet, so yeah, that's gonna be a little bit of a problem. But you can scout out for the roaming fleets, also using the strategy that we use for the Unbidden. However, they are a little bit faster, so you might need to rely on some fortress habitats or key worlds that have FTL inhibitors. And finally, there is the Cetana. She takes the first shot, full damage, no deflection. She wasn't expecting that we would commit such a horrendous act against her. After all, she loves us all, right? But if we try to fire a second time, she redirects the shot directly back at our capital system. So this one is not random like the Contingency. So one chance, that's all we get. Now, if you can somehow amass the 1.5 billion energy required to one-shot her at 25 times Grand Admiral difficulty, honestly, you deserve the win here. But one more detail worth knowing. The reflection tracks per empire, not per shot globally. So if you have allies with their own stellar cannons, each empire gets one free shot. 3 empires, 3 shots at Cetana before she starts reflecting. So you can kinda coordinate with your federation and you might just pull it off, but of course it's gonna require a tremendous amount of energy at all difficulties basically, but at 25 times, oh man, it's probably gonna overflow your energy stockpile before you can even one-shot her. But yeah, commanders, knowing these interactions before you fire could save an entire playthrough. Shooting the Unbidden portal or hitting the Cetana twice are the kind of mistakes that you only make once, unless you watched this video first. So if this helped you plan your next campaign, leave a like because it generally helps the channel, and as always, commanders, I will see you guys next time.